The Old Courthouse of Wollongong was opened in 1858. The building was grand for its time and was the first building that could be seen by ships approaching the harbour. The building showed that this was somewhere where the law was at work, where things were under control, proper English custom was available and justice would be delivered.
The words by Christ are not to be uttered in public in front of women and children, even if to be heard from a very long distance. Should I choose to overlook such blasphemous language, I can only imagine what foul utterances would be permitted in the future. 20 shillings plus court costs, or jail for 7 days.
In the 1820s and 30s, justice was carried out by military authorities and resident magistrates against convicts and free settlers who transgressed. There was no local law, precedent or legislation. Floggings were handled arbitrarily by the local military court as they saw fit, and for minor offences. 50 lashes could be ordered as punishment, for example. Convict and free settler employees feigning illness or refusing to work, harbouring bushrangers, or for men wearing women's clothes.
And I think that the military would have imposed a different sort of regime on the convicts than a judge or a jury might have, as we saw later on.
In 1826, full-time law enforcement was introduced under the command of Captain Bishop, whose responsibilities were to protect free settlers, stop the illegal cedar trade and apprehend runaway convicts. Initially, legal administration was delivered from a slab hut which was built by convicts at Wollongong in 1829, and it included the commandant's residence, barracks for soldiers who were often referred to as lobsters for their red coats, and a flagellator's residence. Flagellators were employed to flog prisoners 25, 50 to 100 lashes at a time, depending on the severity of the crime.
Before the Old Courthouse was built, the justice system down here in Wollongong was different. Perhaps they were afraid of the convicts and they were very much trying to bring a regime of very strict control so that there wouldn't be any sort of insolence, any sort of uprising by the local convicts. And so that fear resulted in very severe punishments for the convicts, that it was a very harsh, almost barbaric kind of society down here.
On the 1st of February 1858, the doors of the Wollongong Courthouse were open for trials. The building was designed by the colonial architect Alexander Dawson. Before local government was established or local churches had been built, the Wollongong Courthouse delivered its first verdict. This moved the responsibility of enforcing the law out of the hands of the military into the judicial system. With the introduction of the jury, defendants were no longer at the mercy of one magistrate or police officer. Justice was gaining a new meaning. For the first time, a local Indigenous person utilised the white legal system and won. But it wasn't long before the magistrates were unhappy. A new tram line was constructed metres outside the courthouse entrance. The courthouse was built in the same year the Mount Kira coal mine, the first mine in Wollongong, was opened. And with a growing population, the harbour was the hub of the new city.
The Old Courthouse functioned very well, but over time, as the harbour became very busy, the area became very noisy, with the coal wagons running past the front door, with the steamships in the harbour with their whistles and their coal loading. All of the agricultural products that came into the harbour were often not quiet pieces of corn and not quiet pieces of maize and dairy products, but were loud squawkings of pigs and bleating of calves, and so it was a very, very rowdy place there for a while. And at that point, the magistrates couldn't hear the evidence that was being presented.
And she tore my bonnet off.
She called me an insolvent strumpet.
And what?
an insolvent strumpet woman. She told me to buy something and pay for it. She said I did not repay the money. 'Tis not true. Tuppence was all I owed. I was going to pay for it. She well deserved it.
The magistrates lobbied for a new courthouse. Land was acquired on Market Street and the building was finally complete in 1885.